Okay, so I wanted to take a look at the AnkerMake M5 versus the Prusa MK4. Now that input shaping is available and has reached release candidate status, I thought it'd be time to do a fair comparison on speed now that Prusa has kind of delivered on their promise of making the MK4 faster. Because at the default profile, the M5 from Anker is actually a little bit faster if you're using the base profiles. But with Input Shaper, that changes a few things for the MK4. So we're going to print and compare these two devices coming up. Okay, so here are both the AnkerMake M5 and the Prusa MK4. They're both pretty nice looking machines. The MK4 has its own kind of Prusa styling. It does look, I would say, less refined. I mean, compared to the AnkerMake, which looks, very smooth curves, folded aluminum. They do a few things like you don't see the X axis cable because it's integrated. The heat bed cable comes up from the bottom, and from the most part, just disappears. So you really are only looking at the one cable with the M5. The Prusa kind of has the extruder wire, the X motor wire, and the heat bed wire all kind of flying around. And a lot more components are visible. However, for repairability, the Prusa is much better because you can print your own parts for the majority of these, and sourcing the hardware is pretty easy because they kind of use off-the-shelf components, other than a few exceptions on the machine. And the AnkerMake M5, getting replacement parts are going to have to come, for the most part, directly from Anker. And opening the machine up is kind of like hopefully it's built to last. And so far, my experience with it since launch has been that it's been a really reliable printer. I have really realistically had maybe one or two failed prints over printing hundreds of prints on this machine, as long as the files were sliced correctly. So the bed plate sticks really well. It prints quickly and has been pretty reliable for a device that is a first generation from a manufacturer. That is pretty dang good. So I do like the M5. The MK4 has been very reliable. I haven't had it as long, but there have been a few issues with PrusaLink, where it had corrupted some G-code file. That has been the biggest issue I had with it. Once I realized that was what was happening, other than that, it has always printed that first layer perfectly. It has always done what I've wanted it to do. So very, very reliable. I also really enjoy that I can print custom colored parts, and that's kind of nice. Another thing to consider with the AnkerMake M5 is that it does have a slightly bigger build plate, 235 by 235 versus the 210 by 220 on the Prusa. However, there's also this. I don't know if you can see that very easy, but this is not square. And while it doesn't seem to have affected the print quality, the frame is pretty rigid. It is not fun to have something that doesn't sit flat, which has always kind of bothered me about it. But that's is easily fixed with some shims on the bottom, but it shouldn't be happening. On the other hand, the Prusa, I have not had to do anything to make it run. This was an assembled version. The kit version, you would have to be assembling yourself, which I have done that several times with MK3s, and will be doing some MK4 kits in the future as well. In terms of the screens, both have pretty nice screens. They're about the same size. Anker's a little bit bigger, but it's not as good. Not really a big deal on a 3D printer, but you can tell that there's a lot, the blacks are a lot blacker on this, and this kind of is just gray TN panel. But yeah, both of these machines are really good. This one takes a USB-C. This one takes USB-A. The Anker does have some benefits in that it does have a camera built in, and you can monitor that on your device. The MK4 does not have a camera built in, but it does have Ethernet built in, as opposed to just Wi-Fi like the MK5. Prusa also has Wi-Fi. So yeah, they are both pretty good machines. But yeah, let's go ahead and do a test print on these machines and see which is faster and which one prints nicer. Okay, so in order to test these fairly, I decided I would not slice this in the same slicer. I would use both their default slicers to compare because that's probably the expected behavior. AnkerMake has their own slicer here. And we are using the 0.4 millimeter nozzle, using the PLA profile, and we're doing it at a 0.2 millimeter layer height. Their default is 10% infill. And if we go ahead and preview this, we can see that it says it should take about 45 minutes and 5 seconds and use 11 grams. So that's fairly quick for a Benchy, and that's actually the default settings. Let's look at the Prusa. We now have the MK4 Input Shaper Alpha, although this is the release candidate version, so it is very close to being available for everyone to use. And if we slice this over here, we see that they say it should take 39 minutes and use about 12 grams of material. So, and they, just to note, they are using 15% info by default in the Prusa slicer, so that it is putting a little bit more material down as well, and supposedly going to be doing it faster. But just for fun, this is the speed profile. There's also a 0.2 millimeter structural profile. If we were to slice it in that manner, that would be a 47-minute. Puts, increasing the time a little bit for a little bit better quality. But I'm going to, it kind of defaults to speed when you set it up. So I'm just going to use that speed method, and we'll see how well it turns out. And whether that 39 minutes versus the 45.5 actually holds true when we actually get this on the printers. So I'm going to go ahead and export these G-code files in the default settings. Oh, one more thing. If we were to just use the original Prusa profiles for the MK4, it would take 1 hour and 1 minute on the Benchy. But that does not take advantage of the input shaper or anything like that, this is where we're going to be moving to in the long haul on the MK4. So yeah, we're going to use this speed profile and see how it goes. So I'll export these and we'll get them in these G-code files in the printers. Okay, so we have both the printers ready to go. Stock slicer settings. They both are using Prusa Galaxy Black. New spools on each, exact same filament. They're using their stock build plates. And let's go ahead, and they are both cooled down. So this is going to include like heating as well. So let's go ahead and press play. You can see that the hot end on the Prusa actually heats up quicker. It's already at 152 degrees Celsius, where this one's at 134. The build plate as well is pretty equivalent between both. They're both at about 40 degrees Celsius at this point. And the Prusa is moving first, but it is doing its first layer calibration. And it looks like a difference in the profile is that this one is heating its build plate up to 65 degrees Celsius, where this one is going up to 60. So the Prusa is now starting to print at the exact same time the AnkerMake is starting to home. So not too big a difference in starting to print time, really. But the edge is going to the Prusa for sure. And the Prusa already has its first layer down before this one has even started to print. Now, since the Anker, there it goes, getting its first layer down. And you do have to check its first layer because it doesn't, it's not able to, it still has a Z offset that you have to mess around with, is what I'm saying. But they're both now printing. I will say, in terms of noise levels on both of these machines, the Anker kind of, its extruder, well, and its print fan just really ramped up right there. The Anker is much noisier than the Prusa, that's for sure. Okay, so here are our final results, and they both look really nice. Let's take a look at the Anker and then also the Prusa. At first glance, the first thing that I do notice is the Anker version is, let me get that better in focus. The Anker version is slightly more dull in color, where the Prusa is just a little bit shinier, and that has to do with the temperature that it printed at, as the Anker printed it quite a bit hotter. So that actually takes away a little bit of the shine, but that's kind of besides the point. If you look at the chimneys, the Anker has a little bit of, I don't know if that's seaming or tearing or just printer jerk movement that is showing up on the chimney here, which does not look the best, which the Anker does not, sorry, the Prusa does not have. There's a little bit of curling on the underside of the lip of the boat, and they're both very nice prints, especially for how fast that they did print. Let's go ahead and look. There's a little string right there on the Prusa. On the other side of the boat, if we look at the sheen of the front, the Prusa has a little bit of artifacting on the front here that we don't see on the Anker. So that is an area where the AnkerMake did a little better on the hull there. On the bottom you can see the difference in the textured plates, but that's neither here nor there. On the front side, they both look pretty good. If you look at the overhangs, the Prusa does seem to do a little bit better on the overhangs, in spite of the fact that the part cooling fan on the Anker is very loud. Let's look at the rear of the boat. Now here you can see there are a lot of issues, printer artifacts on the Anker on the whole of the boat, not so many on the Prusa. So all in all, for the speed, both are very good prints. However, the MK4 is quite a bit faster, completed about 7 minutes earlier than the Anker. Both nice machines. The Prusa is more expensive. So yeah, the Anker M5 is a very quick machine, and not as fast as MK4, but the MK4 is quite a bit more expensive. You can see also the dimensional accuracy of this chimney is much better on the Prusa. But yeah, both really nice prints for the speed. The Anker M5 does start at $6.99, and the Prusa MK4 starts at $7.99. So, and if you want the fully assembled version, quite a bit more expensive for the assembled version. So you got to put in a little work and pay a little more to get into the MK4. But yeah, this is my comparison of the Anker M5 versus the Prusa MK4. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and subscribe, and we will see you on the next video.